Ya está grabando.
Perfecto. Ya está en espérate, público, vuelve. Baja abajo, abajo del todo. Y que hay que le tienes que dar a Update Settings and Permission.
Vale.
Vale, sube arriba, porfa. A ver, arriba del todo.
Esto.
Esto, a ver, si pone algo. Puedes
Pone
darle al
live.
interrogante de status live. Vale, voy a mirar. Eh, 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 tarda 5 minutillos, así que aún no te puedo decir. Hay cuarto, sabremos si se ha puesto o qué va a suceder. Pero no pasa nada, o sea, tenemos aún tiempo.
Pero y entonces, ¿esto que grabemos sale o no? ¿Cómo es la
Sí,
historia?
esto que estamos grabando ahora sale, lo único que no pasa. Ah, mira, ya estáis en stream.
Ah,
Estáis funcionando, chicos. Hay 5 personas mirando.
ok.
Ok, let's start.
Okay.
I want to speak English.
Yeah, it's better. Okay,
Well,
so
hello everybody. Welcome to the Vigilante Diaries streaming. I'm Tatiana Delgado from Auto de Blue Games. I'm the creative director of the studio. And with me is Alfredo today.
yeah, I'm Alfredo González Barros. I'm the narrative lead in the Vigilante Diaries. And well, this is the game that we're working on now. You can actually play this demo in Steam Next Fest, and I don't know. That's
Yeah, we
that's
have to say,
basically.
yeah, this game is very different from the
Oh yeah,
ones that you have played your previous game, Call of the Sea and American Arcadia. This one is has a lot of branching. It's more narrative in that sense, and is it seems more like a visual novel with stats, like the games Life and Suffering of Cervantes, Suzerain, or
the
other
Pale
games like that.
Beyond. hmm
Yes.
Yeah, we love
Uh,
those games too, and that's why we wanted to create a narrative branching, like a narrative RPG game, where you have your stats and you can decide what to do. So that was our goal. Sorry, Tatiana, I just
no,
interrupted.
no, it's okay. So let's go. And while we play, we want to have your help deciding what to do. And also, we will explain a bit the references, why things are how they are, and other things. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we will
Yeah,
reply them.
I'll do my best to try to narrate the game as good as I can with my heavily accent English, but I'll try to do my best.
One of the things the game is approved for
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck, sorry. So you can adjust here the size of the font, so it is easier to read. I'm going to uh, adjust it at large now, so it would be easier to read on
And there's
the
also
stream.
an option if you want to use a font type that is not the journal is handwritten, but you can have like a regular font, like a more readable font, if that's what you need to play.
Okay, so let's start.
Okay, so
Well,
this is I'll make a summary of this. Basically, here we're explaining that there are stats in the game, and every stat can be either positive or negative, but that doesn't mean that negative is detrimental and positive is beneficial. So in certain moments, maybe an aggressiveness can be helpful, but in some others it would be a problem. So that's basically what we are trying to do, to explain here.
Last night was definitely a rough one. Yeah, I should write about it.
and again, in this game, we are mixing the 3D and 2D like we did in American Arcadia. So most of the game is going to happen in the Vigilante Diary, but we will have some scenes in 3D to explore. Okay, first question: how should we name the Vigilante?
Vigilant.
Is there any
Any
request on the chat?
suggestions from the chat? We can always go for a shorter name, like Bill or Rod or Bob. Uh,
We can call it Trevor.
yeah, yeah. Let's call it Trevor. Why not? An homage to American Arcadia.
I am here.
Oh,
Is Jason? What's
Oh,
say Jason?
up.
oh, too late. We changed it.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Now
we have
Jason
to
is
wait a
his,
bit.
is his second name actually. It's Trevor Jason.
Trevor is done.
Yeah, Don is shorter too. Yeah, that's
Ah,
great.
sorry.
Sorry. We'll wait. We'll be more patient. And okay, so this is the prologue of the game, basically.
There is anyone that said Trevor?
Ah,
Okay, someone said Trevor. That's okay. Okay, so I'll just give a read, and as soon as I progress, we'll get to the decisions, and we'll ask you guys to give us an what choice do you feel like. So okay, this is the vigilante reading what happened this night, and he says, "I'm freezing my ass in here. I must have been out in the streets for 3 hours now, at the corners of Sixth and Rollins, 2 blocks from where I grew up. I'm looking at the Irish pub window through my binoculars. Keen's. I used to come here when I was a kid. The Irish name, it's pronounced Kieran. Kieran Keen. As a kid, I always found his name hilarious. The 3 people I've been keeping an eye for weeks are here today. Dominic Tanner O'Toole, Carson Bennett, and Alyssa Marchand. 3 cops, all dirty. Lieutenant Sesame tipped me off about them. They run some kind of under the radar unit, call themselves Stronghold. They began small, sticking up small time dealers, but somehow it snowballed into gun trafficking, blackmailing protected witnesses, and extortion. The Stronghold offers protection, they say. They believe they own this city. They have no remorse, and they hide beneath their badges, behind their badges. It sickens me. That's why I've been patiently waiting outside while I watch them getting hammered at Keen's. It's their weekly ritual, and I suspect it's where they split the money they make with Stronghold. Drunk cops in an Irish pub. Fuck me. These guys are a living cliche, for God's sake. I could have gone after them one by one, but I need to send the message to all 3 of them at once. This Stronghold bullshit ends today, and they better acknowledge it. As I wait for the 3 cops to leave the pub, I do what I always do when I'm about to make a move. I mentally repeat the code to myself. It's something I put down in this journal before even my first night out. Guidelines, some principles, some red lines. The first red line was about lethality. How far was I willing to go to impose justice? Could I justify killing, even in self defense or defense of others? And how would that affect my life? I made a decision. And now it's up to you guys.
so here we are going to have some decisions to see how our character is going to behave. The first one is if we are going to, when bringing justice to the city, no deaths. And as you can see on the right, there are going to be consequences, and the consequences are going to change the stats of the character. If you go to this tab here, you can see all the stats that the character is going to have. We start in the middle, in 0, and you can move towards one of the extremes or the other. And as Alfredo said at the beginning, it doesn't mean that going to one of the other is good or bad. It will be useful in some situations or not useful in others, but it will give uniqueness to your character. So you are going to solve things in different ways. Also, we have this political axis. Is that the word?
Yeah,
Where
it's like a Nolan, I think it's called a Nolan diagram, basically explaining the political views of the vigilante.
yeah, So please go ahead and explain a bit more if you want.
Yeah, basically, there's a huge political influence in this game. So everything that the vigilante does is can move his views on either left or right, and order and liberty. Basically, you can move around that specter as much as you want to create the kind of vigilante that you have in your mind. So many decisions will have an impact in here too, not only to your stats, and some of the choices that you make will cause you to you know it won't allow you to select whatever you want in the next decisions because of your political views or your ideals or whatever.
Okay.
The chosen one is just the bad guys.
Okay.
Okay,
So the chosen one is just the bad guys.
just let me read the. If I have to
Okay.
choose between me and the criminals, it's clear to me who is going down.
Okay.
I don't consider myself a cold-blooded killer, but that's the way things are. This rule applies only to bad guys, though. No innocence and no law enforcement. No way. Law enforcement, sorry, law enforcement doesn't include these stronghold guys. They've been out of the protect and serve business for a long time. The second red line was about privacy. Would I keep living a normal life after this? Would I face this struggle on my own, or would I need help from someone else? And was my need for justice more important than my private life? I made a decision.
No one must know. I'm a one man army. I will probably need help. Spread the word. So as you can see, this is going to give you -3 secrecy, -1 secrecy, or +3 secrecy. What do you feel? What kind of vigilante you want to be?
Once one person says need help, but we are going to wait 1 minute more.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, there are two different ones: spread the word or need help.
It's 2-1 now, right?
Wow, two for need help, one for spread the word, and another one for no one must know.
Okay.
uh,
I think.
two for need help.
Okay, let's
Okay.
go with the. I will
I
probably need help. That has two people now.
I I don't think I can handle this just by myself. My mission is too complicated to be carried out by one person. I need allies. Honest, loyal people who believe in what I do. If someone wants to help me, I'm more than willing to accept it. The third red line was about my ideology. Why was I doing what I was doing? And what was the ultimate goal of my actions? Was I trying to set an example or open the eyes of society? I made a decision. For
For
principle.
principles? No, please go ahead. You have better vigilante
No, no,
voice
no.
than me.
I can rest if you read the options.
Okay. For order, society is crumbling. For equality, crime always hits the working class harder. For liberty, the system is rotten.
I said for sure. Let's see. One for equality, always equality.
As you can see in this, we're just setting the four options. One is left, one is right, one is order, and one is liberty. So we're just beginning that kind of movement in the political axis.
Two for equality and two for principle.
Oh,
It's a
oh,
tie.
whoever,
Ah,
yeah, we have to undo the tie.
any other or
This tie. I just click on the.
Otherwise, you decide, Lucho. You're both these tides.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're always you're up here to undo the ties.
Okay, equality.
Okay, let's go for equality. Crime always, yeah, go ahead.
No, the other play the devil.
That's a good one. Yeah, crime always hits the working class harder. Its target is clear: the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses. The average citizen suffer while the powers that be let them rot in misery and corruption, safely watching from their ivory towers. I'm here to help the ordinary men and women to make their lives better. I come from below, and I keep that in mind every time I'm out in the streets. The three cops finish their last round, pay at the counter, and leave. O'Toole and Bennett smoke outside, sheltering from the snow beneath the pub's marquee. Martin waits patiently. She's the only non-smoker. I assess the situation. Two of them are drunk as a skunk. That's good. But I'm sure the three of them are armed. That's bad. I'd better act fast and take advantage of the element of surprise. In other circumstances, three cops would be in big trouble, but that's what I waited for this moment. I need the three of them to be plastered. Still, I doubt dealing with Stronghold can be solved without violence. I hope my brass knuckles and combat knife will be enough, but I always carry the Engineer 38 revolver just in case. I check the cylinder to make sure it's loaded. I'm ready. O'Toole and Bennett toss their cigarette butts on the ground. The three of them walk to the no, sorry. The three of them walk to where they park the car, near 7th. I know the area. The shortest route is the alley behind Keen's, the perfect place for me to intercept them. I didn't show up with a smoke bomb or hanging off a roof or any of that bullshit. I'll probably break my neck if I did. I just covered my face and turned the corner to block their way. I'm not a lunatic or a madman. Those people make me sick. And I don't pretend to be America's public enemy number one. But most of all, I don't want to get caught on frying the electric chair. That's why I don't want. That's why I don't want to be identified. That's why I cover my face with.
A costume mask, something very eye-catching, a hood and a bandana. I chose the most inconspicuous outfit. My own custom mask. I made myself a custom mask or a ski mask. I chose what I felt was the most effective. There is a typo there.
Oh, was the most? Yeah,
Was
that's
the
a typo
most.
there. Yeah. Okay.
So
So
something very eye-catching, just a hood and a bandana, a custom mask or a ski mask.
I'm not sure if Lucho is still with us. I think he left. Um, Let me see if I can. Okay. Let me see if there's a way where I can read the comments, even though
Yeah, I can
it's.
open.
Oh, you can open. I mean, let me just
Okay,
do
you
it
can take a look
myself.
at the chat.
Yeah. So I'll be in charge of. Okay. Here we are. Oh, there's a lot of people actually. Okay. Show chat. Okay, so they said we can hear you, Lucho. Okay, custom mask, costume mask, costume mask, my own mask, costume. So it's 3 to 1 for costume mask. I needed a recognizable visual element. I needed criminals to know it was the same persons behind it all. I needed something to really grab their attention. Shortly after I began with my mission, I remember what had happened on Halloween in '69 when Chrissy invited me to that party. I'm sure that that night has something to do with what I'm doing now. That's why I went to a costume store and browsed through the masks. The werewolf, Wonder Woman, Nixon with a giant nose. A mask was super common and easily replaceable. but I had to choose. And then I saw it.
Devil mask, a clown mask, a blank mask, a domino mask. What do you think?
Okay, I'm just waiting because the delay. It's a.
So this is going to change how we are going to see the vigilante in the portraits or illustrations of the book, and also we will have this costume in the 3D world. So everything you choose, everything you do inside the book, then is going to be reflected in the 3D environment, because we are going to go around the hideout of the character.
So they say you're either a clown mask or the domino. So that's the two that we have right now. So that's a tie, and there's a. Okay, okay.
Hey.
Nice to see you again, Lucho. Uh, okay, so it's three. It's three to one for Domino Mask. As ridiculous as it may sound, I couldn't help it. All the heroes of my childhood were Domino Masks: the Lone Ranger, Zorro, Dad's comic book heroes like the Spirit. But it wasn't just for that. Yeah, but it wasn't just for that. It brought back fond memories: the Halloween party of '69 and the fight in that Southside alleyway. So the domino mask and the hood is more than enough. It makes criminals underestimate me. They see the mask and they think of Boardwalk's Robin with his underwear and all that shit. They think it's funny, until I beat the shit out of them. Bennett, the tall one, is the first to notice me. He frowns. He's not sure he sees what he's looking at. Hey, O'Toole, look. Isn't that the masked guy, asshole? He says. And he chuckles. He's really smashed. O'Toole looks at me and. Sorry. O'Toole looks me up and down, nods, and says my name. That name.
Is the name I choose, or doesn't mean anything to me? It's just the name the press gave me. So
So
here
in.
you can.
Yep, go ahead,
Go.
Tatiana. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now with the decision of the
Okay, yeah.
That you said Elon Musk.
Okay, so basically, what we want you to tell you is that in here you can either choose your vigilante name, or if you don't want to choose any name, the press will give you one. So if you want a name, just um,
I can choose the
okay, the one I
Okay.
choose.
So my vigilante name is.
Okay, now is the moment for to choose the name.
okay. My vigilante name. Someone said Elon Musk.
Is there any other? We can move with Elon
No, no,
Musk.
they just doing it now because of the delay. They're just
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah. Let's see the chat. One said Velvet Shadow.
Velvet Shadow. That's yeah.
Yeah,
That
That's
sounds
cool.
is
yeah.
sounds cool. Yeah.
Let's go with Velvet Shadow.
Okay. When I began this, I knew I had to become a symbol. Every time they heard my name, I wanted them to know there was someone out there cleaning up the streets. I wanted them to know the fear that honest citizens know. I'm here to do justice. I'm Velvet Shadow. Hey, you! Bennett laughs. What the fuck do you want? Marchand is silent. She's the least drunk of the three. O'Toole is the leader. Bennett is the muscle. But Marchand is the brains, no doubt. I step forward.
I warn them, and or I threaten. Threaten? I don't know how to
Threaten.
say this.
Threaten.
Sorry, threaten.
Threaten. Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, and here you cannot choose draw your gun because you don't have uh, the amount of aggressiveness necessary to just draw the gun on them directly. This is one of the first checks of the game where if you just didn't decide to be super hostile, you can do that super bravado thing.
Let's see. One is the answer.
Okay, let's whoever answers first gets it.
Okay,
Okay,
stronghold
so I
is
warn
over.
them. O'Toole is the first to talk. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? You think we're afraid of some weirdo in a costume? He says as he advances toward me. He still doesn't take me seriously, but hearing Stronghold has definitely upset him. Bennett, the tall one, is still behind him. He smiles with a stupid look on his face. He's fucking drunk. Marchand just looks at me. She's the one who worries. She is the one who worries me the most. Then O'Toole pulls out a knife. I see the gleam of the blade out of the corner of my eye. Looks brand new. Oh, right. Now I get the Tanner nickname. You're not even worth wasting a fucking bullet on you, you damn ass. I didn't expect this, but a knife is always better than a gun. They definitely don't take me seriously. That's good. I won't solve this by talking, that's for sure.
Someone said we should have chosen the correct answer. Okay, one said hand. Let's go for hand. Another one. Let's see. One said fist.
So whoever.
Uh, yeah, let's punch them.
Okay,
Okay,
so hand.
hand to hand.
Okay, the situation is complicated. These three aren't going to take turns fighting me like this was a kung fu movie. I won't be able to take the on. I won't be able to take on three at once. I have to select my first target carefully.
Alisa Martin, the woman at the back with her eyes fixed on me. Carson Bennett, the enormous drunk guy. Dominic O'Toole, the boss, who's coming at me with a knife. Who is going to be?
Someone said the one who carries the knife.
The one who carries the knife. Okay. So that's Dominic O'Toole.
Okay, anything else or?
One said Alicia. Wow, wow, wow. Someone said Alicia. Wow, 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 wow.
Alisa,
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
Alisa. Okay.
let's go with Alicia.
Okay. I dodge O'Toole and walk past the drunk Bennett. I'm worried about Marchand. Very worried. She's definitely the most dangerous one. I get to her in time to throw a punch to her face. Unfortunately, she's fat as hell. She dodges to the side, but I manage to hit her in the shoulder. A Beretta 92F falls in a pile of falls in a pile of snow in the ground. She was going to shoot me. Thankfully, Bennett's fat ass blocked most of the alley. But of course, she's no idiot. She won't shoot me with her service weapon. Too much paperwork. That's why she carries the Beretta. Clever girl. Before she can reach for her gun, I kick the ankle of her supporting foot with the sole of my boot, with all my strength. I hear a crack and Marchand falls to the ground, sucked from the shit and slid in the alley, yelling in pain. One down. That gives me the other two time to react. I had to do something. As O'Toole approaches me, knife in hand, Bennett grabs me from behind. He's massive and reeks of whiskey, but not cheap whiskey. The guy is fucking loaded. You're gonna regret what you did to Elisa, you fucker! O'Toole shouts like a madman and walks towards me faster. If I don't do something quick, I know what's coming next. Best case, best case, the vet sews me up with 12 stitches. Worst case, I end up in a grave. I have to anticipate.
Okay, should we disarm O'Toole? I try to kick O'Toole's knife. Attack O'Toole. I try to kick O'Toole in the nuts. I free myself. I free myself from Bennett's grasp.
Okay, I answer the command.
Okay.
I free myself. 1 minute for effort. One. Okay.
Free myself.
I shake like I'm having a seizure. I kick in every direction. O'Toole hesitates, trying to avoid my flurry of kicks. I keep him at bay while I throw my head backwards violently. Bennett receives a headbutt to the face, and another, up to 5 times. It hurts me more. It hurts me, but it hurts him more. Finally, he lets go of me. Bennett is on his knees, his face covered in blood. I think I broke a couple teeth and probably his nose. Fucking. Now we're one on one. O'Toole's not showing off anymore. I manage to grab Bennett's arm and pull the giant fucker over my shoulder. He falls to the ground and whimpers like an 80-year-old. Now it's O'Toole's time. I twist his arm and he squeals like a little shit. I grab his own knife and I decide to use it.
Okay,
So
we
there's
can't stab, so there's no decision here because we cannot stab him because we don't have enough aggressivity. So we have to threaten them.
Threaten him.
Threaten. I don't know how to say this word. Excuse me. It's very difficult.
And then I threaten the three of them. Listen to me, motherfuckers. If I hear another word about Stronghold, if you take just a single dollar for another's business or threaten a working family again, I'll fucking kill the three of you. Do you understand me? Tool's scared shitless. He stares at me and nods. I push him into Bennett and Marchand. They hold him, the three panting, exhausted. As they run off in the opposite direction, they don't even dare to look back. Only time will tell if I manage to end Stronghold. If not, we'll meet again. That's a promise from Velvet Shadow.
And now at the end of the event, we will see how we have modified all the stats.
So as you can see, basically we're just a little we're going into the pacifist side, even though we've given a plenty of punches and kicks, but I mean, for a vigilante that's pretty peaceful. We're a little bit more physical, having used our fists and been kicking, and we haven't done anything really crazy. We just beat we just beat them up. So that's what we are saying instead of the range.
Yeah, and I have to say the outcome of this scene, it could be very different. You have done very well. We have
Yeah.
defeated the cops, but it's not what happens all the time.
Yeah, we could have ended here just being wounded.
Masked vigilante terrorizes city streets. 3 police officers attacked. The Observer headline. Morning edition. Next to a composite sketch. Well, whoever drew it managed to get a pretty accurate description of my outfit. I've been sloppy. I gotta be more careful. Yeah, the terrorizes thing wasn't exactly what I was expecting. But I wasn't expecting high praises for what I do either. I should use that to my advantage, in any case. Terrorizes. So, I guess, the city is afraid of me.
And here's the title of the game, Vigilante Diaries.
I want to say that when you play the demo, you have a lot of a link where you can provide us feedback.
Hmm.
So we would really appreciate anything that you tell us to improve the game. We would love to have it. So I will remind you where it is when we finish the streaming.
Okay, and now we begin the story. Just as any good superhero story has to begin with the hero's origins. Now we're going to see who is this guy and how was his life before he became a superhero. Well, or vigilante, I must say, not a superhero. There was a sociological profile in the article. Some things were just pure bullshit, but I have to say, some of the other things were spot on. Working class citizen, an extremely reserved person, probably a war veteran, either Korea or Vietnam. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much me, but I'm not just that. I was born in 1952, years after World War II. I grew up on the stories of American soldiers liberating Europe from the Nazis, the Uncle and Sam posters, the Times Square kissing picture, fighting for truth, justice, and the American way, and all that. I guess all those glorified war stories have something to do with what I do now. Of course, then came Korea, and after that, Vietnam. Spending 13 months in Hue and Saigon probably have to something to do with what I do now in the streets. Anyway, I was born in a working class family. I wouldn't say we were poor as tourist mice, but we weren't exactly well heeled either. I grew up in a hole in the wall in the third floor of 19 Monroe Avenue, in the intersection of Benson and 10th, but it could have been anywhere. All working class neighborhoods were similar back then. Men coming home with sore backs after an endless day of work, women keeping their order in a tiny 1600 square feet apartments full of children where there was never any silence. Children wearing hand-me-downs from their adult siblings. Tobacco smoke filling the living rooms. A black and white television set in some houses. A radio in all of them. Electric radiators in winter. Children cooling off with fire hydrants in summer. Peanut butter sandwiches in McKinley Park. What was considered a happy childhood in the 1950s. My dad worked at the docks, another working class hero. As far as I can tell, and despite having hardly any education, he was a well read guy, beyond the Western dime novels, I mean. He even read Steinbeck when he was in France during the war. I guess the Grapes of Wrath had a lot to do with him being president of the city's Stevedores Union chapter. If you have a problem with your boss, talk to Frank Donovan, they used to say. My mom didn't look anything like a pastor housewife of the 1950s. First of all, because she wasn't a housewife, no matter how much my father insisted she quit her job. Sir Donovan is not a kept woman, she always replied. So she served tables at Agnello's Steakhouse, a restaurant just north part, yeah, a restaurant just north past the interstate toward Greenville. All the neighbors said Esther wore the pants in the Donovan house, and they were right. Mom was quite the character. I'm not saying she wasn't sweet and loving, but overall, she was tough as nails and wise as King Solomon. And then there was my older brother Paul. He was 1 year older than me, but we almost looked like twins, two peas in a pod. A brother at their age means everything: a friend, a confidant, a playmate, and sometimes a rival. Someone to fight over who gets the last piece of mom's cherry pie or some other trifle. We collected trading cards together, played ball together, watched the Lone Ranger together, read Dad's comics together. We were always together. And there was me, Trevor Donovan. I worry about writing my full name here in case someone finds and reads this journal. It's an absurd worry. If someone finds this journal, it's because they caught me. And there are much worse things here in my hideout. So,
Like,
yes.
someone asked for the localization that will have the game. What localization?
Uh huh.
The languages that will be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are planning to release it in Spanish and English at the moment.
But we always open to some other
Yeah,
languages if we feel that there's enough support. That'll be great too, because
yeah.
we really want this game to reach as
Hmm.
much audiences as we can.
So help us spread the word and
Yeah,
and wishlist, and then we
wish
can.
list.
Yeah.
Then we can just translate this. Yeah, of course. Okay, so I believe.
Say
Yes.
7 ET.
What? Oh, yeah. So I believe that I'm the protagonist of the story, an average Joe, no remarkable traits except one. And they say my mom's serenity. Okay, let's choose that.
Okay. Just want to show the different
The other
stats that
options.
you. Okay.
Esther Donovan, as a good card player, was used to studying situations well and reading the environment. It wasn't easy, but she knew how to deal with each of us and rarely used direct confrontation. I learned a lot about how my mother managed our home. She protected us and kept order, just like me on the streets. And now, as you can see, we just by choosing your mom's traits, now you're a different kind of person. You're more pacifist, less violent, less impulsive, and that's basically it. Okay, this is just a summary, and as you can see, the one of the left is just a description of your relationship with a character, and you can see that now that relationship with your mom has increased. Okay, Donovan's Boys, July 11th, 1956. One of my earliest memories is visiting my father at the port. I still remember the smell, a mix of sea salt, fuel, sweat, and smoke. A busy place almost all day long. It's noisy and noisy as fuck too. If it wasn't stevedores and sailors screaming at each other, it was the sound of mechanical cranes and the squawking of the seagulls. At that time, I didn't understand exactly what my father did for a living. I was too young to know what a union president was. All I knew was that he worked at the port, but he didn't load cargo, run a ship, or operate cranes. I just knew that he spent all day in a small office on the docks, which he called the shit house. That was Frank Donovan at his best. Subtlety was never his strong suit. The shit house became another playing ground for me and my brother. We spent hours in that place as if it was an own house. For my father, it was the headquarters from where he fought for the rights of dock workers alongside his union buddies. Donovan's voice, they called him. But there were some things my father couldn't take care of from inside the shit house, especially when there were problems with the shipping companies. At that time, the shipping companies had established what was known as open shop. In other words, free hiring of workers. Being non-union for a longshoreman meant that there was no wage regulation, no control over overtime, and no paid leave. And that's why Dad had been on the picket line with his boys for several days to paralyze the city port. Without dock workers, the port was as useless as a fishnet condom. The city was losing money hand over fist. Even so, the negotiations had gone awry several times already. The shipping companies were desperate. But Dad was used to dealing with tougher, meaner, and more dangerous people. And even those guys always said that Frank Donovan was a stubborn Irish bastard. Yeah, they were right. However, my mother wasn't pleased with the situation either. She took my brother and me to the port to see him one Friday afternoon. I must have been 4 or 5 at the time. The situation we found there was not what we expected. Things were heating up. On one side of the picket line were Donovan's boys, on the other side the cops. I saw my dad yelling like a maniac. He flipped the bird to the cops at least twice. My father saw us arriving and immediately ran over to us. He was sweating and looked agitated. Hester, why did you bring the kids here, damn it? They're. Dad lowered his voice. I heard what he said, but I didn't understand a word he said anyway. Those fuckers are threatening to call the National Guard if we don't disband immediately. Then disband, my mother replied. These kids haven't seen their father in 8 days, Frank. You have a family outside the port, too. I know, and that's why I'm doing this, Esther. Please, take the kids home. We'll talk later. Please. I interrupted them.
I heeded Dad's words. I tried to convince Dad. I tried to act brave.
Hidden. Oh, or arc, brave.
Like brave, brave.
Brave.
Ah,
Like brave. Three,
Choose
three.
for us, brave.
okay.
Okay. I'm not leaving, Dad. I'm staying with you. My father laughed and moved my hair. He found it hilarious that a whippersnapper no taller than 3 feet from the ground was already as stubborn as he was. You're cut from the same cloth as your father, Trevor. You know that? Mom sighed. Just a few seconds later, Paul pointed at the picket line. Mom, Dad, look! And then the police charge. The screams of the little children drowned everything else. There was no time for anything but pets. My father threw a bunch of keys at my mother. To the shit house! Get in there with the kids and lock the door! He shouted as he ran towards the now bridged picket line. And don't come out, you hear me? We lost sight of Dad in the turmoil. We just heard him screaming, You motherfuckers, leave us alone! As young as my brother and I were, we couldn't take our eyes off the scene. The police handed out facts? I don't know how to say that. Left and right, without mercy. Blows to the legs, to the arms, to the head, or directly to the face. It was brutal. The other one's boys ran with their faces covered in blood. A group of them fought back. They set fire to some machinery pieces and a huge column of smoke. And a huge column of black smoke emerged in the middle of the dock. The whole city was going to know what had happened on the pier, and not just from the newspapers. When things calmed down, almost an hour after the incident, so not the incident now, we left the shithouse. We walked along the port. It had been raised from top to bottom. A police officer looked at us in our way out. He seemed so surprised to see a woman with 2 children that he didn't even question us. He just let us go. My father returned home at midnight. A Lincoln Continental brought him. The driver was a guy with a tiny mustache. The one on the front passenger seat, a guy with curly black hair and olive skin, took him to the door and shook his hand. I noticed that Dad was visibly uncomfortable. He went inside, and my brother and I hugged him as soon as he walked through the door. My mother did not. She just looked at him from the kitchen with a stern face and asked him who that was. Just a friend, and with that, my father settled it. We never spoke about the dog incident again. Okay, so now as you can see, you disobey your mom and try to act brave with your dad. That lowers your relationship with mom and raises your relationship with dad. Okay, trading cards. June 2nd, 1957. My brother was a baseball nut. He never took off his Red Sox cap that Uncle Doug had brought back from Boston. He even had a bat signed by Sidney Koufax. I must admit that I didn't care much about baseball, except from the trading cards. I loved them. Our collection was amazing. We had all the stars from the era: Al Kaline, Whitey Ford, Ray Boone, Mickey Mantle. Some Sunday afternoons, we would go to McKinley Park after church to trade leftover cards with other kids. A melting pot of Irish, Greek, Puerto Rican, and Italian American kids gather and trade the cards, shouting like crazy as if they were street vendors. Usually, we all respected the rules of the game. From time to time, you can find a clueless kid who didn't know what his Roy Campanella card was worth, but that was considered fair game. There were others who didn't respect the rules, like Tiny Theo. His name was Theodoros Macropoulos, but someone had given him that nickname because the kid was fucking huge, almost twice as big as the rest of the kids, both tall and wide. Tiny Theo was a shady character. We knew that because Paul had had some bad experiences with him. Every time someone did businesses with Tiny Theo, they learned a valuable lesson. Paul hated his guts. That's why we never traded cards with him. Tiny Theo was just a nuisance that most of us traders avoided, but not all the kids who came to McKinley Park on Sundays knew him. This time it was Luis Aguirre's turn. He was one of the youngest kids there, not even 6 years old. But Tiny Theo didn't care about that. We saw Tiny Theo take a large deck from Louis' hands in exchange for a single card. Unless that was a limited edition seen by Babe Ruth himself, that was foul play. Tiny Theo was walking away from Louis. The poor kid didn't even flinch. He still didn't quite get what had just happened with his deck. And then, without a word, Paul headed straight for Tiny Theo. I asked him what the hell he was doing. I'm going to get that kid's deck back, goddammit.
We cannot join our brother
Yeah,
because
we're
we
not
don't have
aggressive
enough.
enough.
I told him to help Louis. I told him to stay out of it.
One step Louis.
Why don't we just give some spare cars to that poor kid?
Yeah, I think that all the time nobody wants to leave Louis,
Ah, pobre,
the poor Louis.
poor
Yeah,
Luis.
we have decent
Someone
human.
said,
Someone said that. Oh,
can't join.
okay, let's help Louis then.
Help Louis. Someone said stay out. Well,
uh,
Okay, so let's give some cards to Louis and Paul. We won't be able to beat Tiny Theo in a fight, and we both know it. I spoke slowly, waiting patiently, while Tiny Theo was walking away. Just look at that poor kid, man. Luis Aguirre was just now realizing what had happened to him. We were seconds away from him bursting into tears. My brother thought about it for a second. While it's true that he wanted to teach Tiny Theo a lesson more than anything, he also felt really sorry for Luis Aguirre. Yeah, you're right, he grunted, accepting the harsh truth. Let's give some cards to Luis, but only spares, okay? We waited until we lost sight of Tiny Theo. We called over to Luis, who came up to us with a blank stare of an abandoned puppy. Paul handed him a pack of spare cards we had, and Luis' face lit up. Oh, thank you so much. And then he left, smiling from ear to ear. Paul looked at me. I knew for a fact that he was mad about not beating Tiny Theo, but he felt good about helping the poor kid. You're a good guy, Trevor. Let's go home. Come on. Okay. And we find a way to solve problems without violence. That's great. Okay. Playing the big league, May 23rd, 1958. My mother loved to play cards. Twice a month on Saturday nights, when she was free at Anielos, she would set up a game at home. That night, as we finished dinner, my mother spoke to me as we did the dishes. Trevor, are you up for a game tonight? It was the first time my mother had offered to play cards with me. I thought it was an exciting challenge, something for grown-ups, so I said yes without hesitation. But I'm warning you, this is the big league, she said as she finished placing the plates on the dish rack. Don't expect any special treatment just because you're the youngest, understood? I wouldn't have expected anything else from my mother. Esther Donovan never sugarcoated anything. For years, it had just been her and my dad playing gin rummy, but Paul had recently joined the games, so they switched to classic rummies. To classic rummy, no home rules. Mom explained the rules to me in just 5 minutes. You have to match sets of three or more cards, either three of a kind or straights of the same suit, like this. She spread out a four, a five, and a six of spades in the table. This is called a melt. The first player who melts all of his cards goes out and wins the round. And then the other players have to add up the points of the cards that they have in their hand without the melt. Mom picked up the cards and began shuffling them. Easy, isn't it? It seemed simple even for my own age. We gathered around the table. I had Paul on my left and my mother on my right. She began to deal the cards with confidence and a smile on her face. My father picked them up with a certain laziness. I don't think Dad was enthusiastic about Rummy, because he knew that playing with my mother meant losing. Paul and I, however, were very focused. There were a lot of variables to take into account and we were inexperienced. We played a couple of hands and one after another my mom went out. Sometimes she even got rid of all of her cards. I'm going rummy, she said. That means double points for the rest of us. She was giving us the beating of our lives. Mom knew the three of us like the back of her hand and her game proved it. You have to pay attention to the cards, boys. Are you paying attention? I don't think so, she said teasingly. Paul was fuming. My father rolled his eyes, fed up with so much defeat. Esther, darling, you're such a sore winner, he said as I picked up the next card. Well, I'm sorry, my mother smirked as she put down the last three of cards she had left in her hand. Because I think Esther Donovan has won again. Okay, so go.
What are we going to do? We focus on mom's game, keep looking at her gestures, or are we going to sabotage? How do you say sabotage?
Sabotage.
Mom, trying to steal all the cards that she
Oh,
wants.
we can take the risk. Why? We don't have enough. What?
Nerve.
Oh, yeah, we don't have enough nerve. Yeah, our nerve is too big. Okay, so we focus on mom. Focus, respect mom. Yeah, everybody here respect their moms. That's good. So let's focus on mom's game. On mom's game. I keep looking at mom's gestures. I noticed my mother's expression as I was dealing. I noticed how she would sometimes frown slightly when she received the card. It was almost imperceptible. Paul and my father hadn't noticed, but I had, and that frown had to mean something. My hand wasn't so bad. I had a pair of deuces, three sevens, hearts, diamonds, and spades, already melted, and a pair of jacks, and some high cards that didn't match. But I had decent hands before, and mom always managed to lay out first, probably because I hadn't been paying attention to what she was playing. I had to mail my hands with a laying of anything that might suit her. So I tried to keep looking at her face while she played. I was I was melding my cards. I tried to pull one of those frowns every. Sorry, I'm just skipped the line. I tried to pull out one of those frowns from mom with my layoffs. Every time she did it, it was like a small victory for me. The game went on until Paul announced what he seemed like the greatest accomplishment of his short life. I'm going out, yes, finally! Considering from where we went, considering from where we're coming from, that wasn't so bad. My mother gave me a knowing look. She knew what I was trying to do, but she was a skilled player. Mom had almost everything melded, except for an ace and a deuce, only 3 points. Almost, she said. She stood up filled with pride. Better luck next time, son. She ruffled my hair and went to the kitchen to get something to drink. It took me a while to understand what that rummy game meant to my mother, why she was so happy. Games aside, it was the first time she saw her younger son adapt and fight back, even if it hadn't worked out in the end. I think my mother was proud to see me standing on my own 2 feet. Okay, now we recovered some of our
She's
mom's
proud
love.
again.
She's proud again of us. Okay, Chrissy. June 6, 1958. I have memories of many firsts, but not the first time I saw Chrissy. For me, Christine Meehan was always there, like my parents are poor. A childhood friend who lived 2 streets over, the daughter of one of my mother's best friends and of Officer Gordon Meehan. The Mehans were Irish and Catholic like us, and we went to the same church. Chrissy and I endured Father Matthew's sermons patiently, waiting for Mass to be over so we could get out and play. Meehan was a cop back in the time when it meant being loved and respected by the whole neighborhood. One Saturday before lunch, Chrissy came to my block. Trevor, you coming out to play? She always called me from the street. Although she did like boy stuff like hide and seek and other things, playing with Chrissy didn't strictly mean playing. Sometimes we just talked. And at that time, it was grateful to have someone to talk to. We went for a stroll around the block and stopped by Bob's store and maybe a pop over to Kieran's Kieran's Kin bar for a milkshake. Back when Kin served milkshake. What do you want to be when you grow up? She asked abruptly. I replied that I wanted to be anything but a longshoreman. Although some years had passed, the dog episode was still in my head. I'm going to be a police officer, like my dad, she said proudly. But I didn't picture her as a cop, and I told her.
Okay, they are seeing now the choices.
So,
Mhm.
are we going to say to her that you can't? It doesn't suit you? You're too smart to be a cop? They are evil. Cops are bad people.
Doesn't suit you?
Okay.
Doesn't.
Doesn't suit me. I said it as if it were an obvious statement. What do you mean? Chrissy looked at me intrigued. Chrissy was the most intelligent person I knew. Her grades were superb. I told her that she was worth much more. To be a judge, scientist, cure diseases, or send rockets into space. She was destined to do something important. I even thought Chrissy had the potential to be the first female president of the United States, but any dork could be a cop. That's not true. My father's smart. She still didn't get what I would to tell her. I've never been good with words, and the limited vocabulary of an 8-year-old didn't help me either. I tried to explain that it was true that Officer Meehan was no idiot, but it wasn't like Chrissy. People like Meehan, or my dad, or me were streetwise. We read the circumstances, we dodged problems. Chrissy, however, was the kind of person who solved problems. She was analytical, thoughtful, sharp tongued. Obviously, I didn't know any of these words at that age, but I think I managed to get through her somehow. Well, Chris shrugged. I'm going to be a problem-solving police officer, whatever that means. We returned home after the walk. We said goodbye at her building's doorway, which was a couple of blocks before mine. Before going in, she stared at me for a few seconds with a smile on her face. You're very strange, Trevor, but I like you. And then she kissed my cheek. Okay, now we have a friend. Okay, playing chopsticks, September 30th, 1959. The weekends went by quickly until Sunday mornings. The biggest culprit was Father Matthew's sermons in church. Paul and I hated Mass, but we didn't dare to complain in front of Mom. She was devout. When I was little, Mass was daily. Now we barely comply with our obligations with the Lord. To the Lord, sorry. The way she put it, going to church sounded like some sort of heavenly tax to be paid. Yet my mother had a sweet and gentle view of religion. She spoke of us of a God who was infinitely good, who cared about us, who loved us and protected us. Mom's God meant love. Father Matthew's God had nothing to do with that. My brother always said that Father Matthew reminded him of the evil giant in Jack and the Beanstalk. He was a huge fella, almost 6 feet tall. The echo of his throaty voice resonated in the church as he delivered his tightly focused sermons on angels with flaming swords, painful sacrifices, divine punishment. His personal favorite was fire and brimstone falling on Sodom. Not even God couldn't find 10 righteous people in that city, he yelled. The old guy was enamored with the Old Testament. Both Paul and me hated Mass, but for different reasons. Paul was just bored, but I was just terrified of Father Matthew's God. Underneath his weekly sermons about evil, righteousness, and justice, there was an idea that probably defined his personality. Father Matthew believed we all were God's soldiers, and life was a never-ending battle of good against evil. One Sunday, Paul told me he had learned a game for two in school, a game played with your fingers only, chopsticks, it was called. It was quite fun, and perfect for Mass. We followed the routine along with the rest of the churchgoers. We stood up, sat down, knelt, recited, and gave each other a sign of peace. But I was always looking at how many fingers were standing on Paul's hands. We were so focused on the game that neither of us noticed Father Matthew's shooting glance. It was more than enough for him. Mass went by in the blink of an eye. My mother won 3-2. I admitted defeat, but I also pointed out that he had more practice than me. Our parents stopped to talk with a group of neighbors at the church gate. Another Sunday morning ritual. One of them, an old lady, pinched my cheek and said, "Look at you, Trevor. How much you've grown. Do you know who I am?" I shrugged. Of course, I didn't know who the whole hag was. As we waited for our parents to finish talking with the unnamed old lady and her group, we saw Father Matthew approaching us. "Hello, Frank, Esther, how's everything?" Father Matthew put his hand on my shoulder, and Paul's white speaking. "May I talk with the boys in private? It will only be a second." As a
They have
yes,
one question.
yeah,
They have one question. Will there be another female character in Romance Reset in the full release?
yep, there will be. But you have to play the full game to know.
Okay.
Okay. A priest in the 1960s represented the highest authority for a Catholic family. Many parents left their children in care of the priest without a moment of hesitation. There's no need to say how much trauma and suffering this blind trust caused. Fortunately for Paul and me, Father Matthew was not that kind of priest. But unfortunately for Paul and me, Father Matthew wasn't like Spencer Tracy, Father Flanagan in Boys Town either. He took us to the vestry next to the church. Paul and I followed him, terrified and silent, dealing with the unpleasant feeling in our guts, that mixture of shame for misbehaving and the fear of retaliation. Most of all, the fear of retaliation. As we entered, he led us to the small classroom. We knew it placed from a CCTV class. Paul and I followed, and since he did not signal us to sit down, we just stood. Father Matthew closed the door after us, and stood in front of the wooden teacher's table. "Do you know why you are here, boys?" he asked. His deep, stern voice echoed in the silence of the vestry. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice? That I would let you play games in God's house? The church deserves all of your respect and all of your attention, even more than your own home. And Mass is one of the..." Father Matthew stopped abruptly. Paul told me later that he hadn't said a word, made a gesture, or anything at that moment. He just said, "Oh, another boring sermon." But somehow, Father Matthew knew what Paul was thinking. He pulled Paul's hair with his left hand violently. He almost dragged him across the floor. "Am I boring you? You are the eldest, Paul. You have to set an example. Where's your judgment? Your judgment, boy?" He hollered like a madman. He raised his huge fist above Paul's face.
We cannot kick him. I did nothing. Paul got the worst of it. When we got out of there, I took the blame. "It was my fault, Father," I said.
I think they seen the options now.
And I want to say that regarding the love interest of the main character, that you can pick a woman but also a man if you want. So
Mhm.
we have all the options for the players.
Okay, let's. Everybody's everybody's
For
saying take the blame. "It was my fault, Father," I said. He held his hand on the spot and turned his head to me. He let go of my brother. I told him that he had to punish someone. It had to be me. It had to be me. I said I had learned a new game at school, and that it was a lot of fun, and that I wanted to show off to Paul. That I wanted to impress my older brother, but it was not my intention to disrespect him. He put his hand on my shoulders. I squinted my eyes in anticipation of the slap, but it never came. "You have shown courage, and you have shown sincerity." Sorry, you have shown courage, and you have shown sincerity, Trevor. But most of all, you have shown fairness, and that's what matters most. You may go, boys, but don't you ever think of fooling around in church again, okay? We nodded. A hair pulling was more than favorable balance, considering how it might have turned out. "Why do you say that?" Paul asked me. I shrugged. It was something I often did when I didn't know what to say, so I just felt like doing it. "It was stupid," he said as we walked back. "But you saved my ass. I love you, little brother." Okay, so maybe we can just play the next event and then stop the. Is that okay, Tatiana?
next one is the turning point. Yes,
Okay.
sounds
Okay,
good.
let's play this one because yeah, we're just running out of time, and this will be uh, the last. But there's much more in the demo, so you can download the demo and play it. Okay, November 5th, 1960, turning point. Up to this moment, I lived nothing but a ordinary. Sorry. Up to this moment, I've lived nothing but an ordinary childhood. Humble, definitely. A little rough and sometimes, maybe, but certainly mostly happy. In a few years, I will go to high school, meet a girl, have a job, get married, and have 2.5 kids and a house with a white picket fence and all that. Of course, that never happened. Or it didn't happen the way I expected it, at least. That my life went wrong had a lot to do with the most special person in my family, the one to who I felt most attached, the most important person at that time in my life. Who is the most important person in your life?
This is a very important decision.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. My mother, once the mom, father,
Mom?
once the mom, another one brother, another one father.
Then it's up to you, Lucho. Or
Yes.
any other replies.
Mother
Mother?
is the chosen one.
Okay.
Okay. Esther Donovan was a fascinating woman. We didn't know how she did it, but she worked and managed the household finances, but still always had time to be with us. She was the voice of order and authority at home. Mom was able to set us straight without words while never failing to be the most loving and tender person in the world. To me, Esther Donovan was much more than a mother. She was a guide. That's why her murder tore me apart. And not only me, everybody in the neighborhood loved Esther Donovan. The first time I heard about the collector was in the news one Friday night. The only night that my mother allowed TV during dinner was Friday, because the Twilight Zone was on and none of us wanted to miss it. Dad turned the TV on. It was CBS Evening News, and they showed Lovers Lane, an area near the drive-in movie theater in Greer Mill, north of town. Couples used to drive there to make out. I guess some would get laid there too, but that wasn't too common back then. Two teenagers had been killed the previous night. Somebody had tied them up and shot them each twice. That was terrible. But what terrified me the most wasn't the killing itself. The killer had written something on a permanent marker in the hood door of the boy's car. That's for now. Good hunting season. I'm on a roll. What a fucking lunatic. In that moment, I realized what a serial killer was. He wasn't the bad guy from an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He had no motives. He just killed for fun, and he did it over and over again. He always took something from the people he killed. That's why months later, the press nicknamed him the Collector. The Greenville girl had messy hair, so the killer probably took her hairband. And the boy had recently graduated, but there was no sign of his high school ring anywhere. The four of us were silent, but I couldn't hold it anymore.
I asked Mom about it. I turned off the TV.
Because we can't insult the murderer, we don't have enough aggression.
Okay, let's see. The choices are not now they are. One moment. Let's see. 2 for mom.
Two for mom.
Okay.
Paul was the first to respond. What did you just say, Dad, you idiot? Don't say that, not even as a joke. Then he punched me on the shoulder. Paul, Leave your brother alone, Mom scolded him. Go get a cherry pie, come on. Mom looked at me. She noticed I was still upset. Don't worry, sweetie. Agnello is a long way from Greenville, she said as she caressed my hair and kissed me on the forehead. Nothing bad is going to happen. Mom smiled at me as she took the empty casserole dish away. I helped her with the dishes. It reassured me. We always trusted Mom. She always knew what to do, and she also knew how to fool me if it was necessary. I didn't know it back then, but Agnello was only a couple miles away from Greenville, not really very far away. After a while, my mother shouted, it's starting, and immediately the Twilight Zone intro started playing. We sat around the TV and the collector was put on the back burner. No one thinks that a tragedy like that will strike their family. We all try to stay positive by reminding ourselves that we'll never be struck by lightning in the same way we'll never win the lottery. Those things always happen to other people. But the collectors didn't make any distinction between people. He didn't care if his victim was a prostitute, a truck driver, or a student. All ages, all genders, and all complexions were valid targets. A month after the newscast, my mother was working a late shift at Agnello's. The next morning, her body was found in a vacant lot near the restaurant, Monocle, 2 shots to the head, written in a permanent marker on her dress, 50, the collector's fifth victim, and her wedding ring with the name Frank and Esther, May 14, 1947 engraved inside, was missing. When police told us, Dad shrank inward like I had never seen before. Paul, on the other hand, was in shock. He couldn't believe it. But I could. I'd known it was going to happen. I tried to save my mother, but I couldn't. That was almost 25 years ago. 25 years since laughter, joy, or happiness abounded the Donovan household. The collector took credit for 4 more murders after my mother, but he thought that there might have been more victims. He was never caught. 25 years is a long time, but not that long. Maybe that son of a bitch is still out there, alive. And if he is, I plan to find him and get my mom wedding ring back.
Okay.
And that's it. You can go to the main menu, maybe. 'Cause-
Perfect.
So as you can see, you will change a lot the story of the because depending on the character you choose, a completely different branching is going to open. So this game, I think, that has a lot of replayability because if you want, you can explore all the different options and try again different choices and see what happens.
And if you enjoy what we just played, this is just a tiny part of the demo. You can play the the first chapter of the game and just shape up your vigilante as you have imagined. And that's it. If you like it, remember to wishlist and
And
play
also,
the demo.
you can leave feedback here, so
Yeah.
we would appreciate it if you tell us if you like it, if you what you like it, what you didn't, to improve it. So thank you everybody for watching us, and we hope you enjoyed this small part of the story of the Vigilante.